that shit.
Welcome to Trash Talk MMA.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
The #1 podcast for news and insight that matters in the world of mixed martial arts.
I don't want to hear it.
Brought to you live and unfiltered from all four corners of the globe
That's what you said.
by MMA aficionado Antoine Peltier.
Yo, and welcome to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier, and today I have another special guest from the Tiger Muay Thai family, Kai Kara-France from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Man, I've just been going around the world. How you doing, Kai?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
So what do we got? Monday, start of the week. You showed up with a little scuff above your head. Looks like you were training already today.
Yeah, just your normal Monday morning.
Get punched in the face.
Yeah, straight into Muay Thai. It was good training.
Who were you sparring with?
Just all the guys from the fight team. A few guys have fights coming up, so I had to pick up the pace a bit and stay in the pocket. Yeah.
So break down when you say a few guys with the fight team at Tiger Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Who does that consist of exactly?
Well, there's two parts. There's the Muay Thai fight team and the MMA fight team. So this morning I was training with mostly the Muay Thai fight team. Gregory, he's one of the Russians he's on a Muay Thai scholarship, MMA scholarship, but he's predominantly Muay Thai.
Okay.
And then we've also got Bruno, who's an MMA fighter, but he fights a lot of K1 Muay Thai from Brazil.
Okay.
And the rest of the guys that were there this morning, they're not in the official team, but they're always like familiar faces that are always coming back to Tiger. So
are they the types of fighters that they basically come here on their own dime, train,
Yeah.
and then Tiger does get them fights and promotes them as Tiger Muay Thai fighters in their fights, like on the posters, etc.?
yeah, guys come like maybe 1 or 2 months, and they want to be hosted by Tiger, and then since they're like recurring clients or customers,
Yep.
Tiger tends to look after them and helps them out a bit.
Now, is that, I know you did the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts in 2013. You were one of the 5 people that got accepted for that. We'll talk about that some more. Did you ever pass by that other type of Tiger Muay Thai support, whereas you were a guest training here and you were good enough so that they'd get you fights? Did you ever go through that phase, or did you go just from being a fighter in New Zealand and then coming to Thailand, getting the sponsorship by Tiger Muay Thai and being directly a Tiger Muay Thai sponsored fighter?
Well, this is how it happened. There was a video that went viral, and they were just asking for fighters to send in like an application, a bio, some videos, photos of yourself.
Yep.
And so I was already fighting pro by then. So I sent out a video. A few weeks, or maybe a month later, I got a reply saying, yeah, you're accepted. Come out to Tiger between these dates, and we'll have a 2-day tryout for you. So I was selected, maybe, I think there's about 15 out of 300 applicants that got accepted.
Okay.
There was supposed to be more, but people couldn't make it out.
Yeah, that's always one of the challenges of
Yeah.
Thailand for a lot of places. It's out of the way for the majority of the Western world.
A lot of people.
You know.
So, ended up booking my flights. It was my first time traveling alone. I was only 18.
Awesome.
So, just came over about two or 3 weeks before the actual tryouts. I wanted to acclimatize, get used to the heat, the training, get to know people first.
Yeah, because it's a different beast out here.
Yeah.
You know, people don't understand, man. I mean, right now it's like the middle of summer for us here, and it's just scorching out there.
is.
You know, we're all training, and it's like basically 40 degrees, crazy humid. It's
If you're not used to it, you'll definitely get heat stroke.
yeah.
So it came out, got to know all the coaches, Roger, Brian, Fernando. Right from the start, they liked me. They liked my attitude. I was always willing to train. So then, the time of the tryouts, I think I got staph the day before, so I didn't really want to do the tryout. I was injured already,
Okay.
but I just taped it up and pushed through. And I was the youngest, but I was the youngest by a few years, and not the least experienced, but I felt like I was definitely one of the underdogs because no one really knew who I was. There was a few guys that were already kind of established already, and
Because you're 22 now, right?
yeah,
And you've had 12 professional fights?
so about 14.
Okay.
Some are on my show dogs.
Okay.
Yeah. So about 14 pro MMA fights, 3 or 4 amateur fights, maybe 5 K1 Muay Thai fights.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've had a few fights now, but yeah, back then I'd fought internationally already. So, coming up to Tiger was I was kind of used to traveling already, but it was a completely new experience. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, this wasn't just a one-off thing. You were coming out here to settle down here.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There you're dealing with an entirely new culture, a new home, new people. You know, you're basically stepping out of your comfort zone pretty radically at that point.
Yeah, so before I left, I was at university. I was studying Bachelor in Sport.
Okay.
And I knew I didn't want to go back to... I wanted to I wanted to get the scholarship and then try and make my way from there. I didn't want to just settle down and do the regular, go to uni...
Yep.
Yeah, so...
Is that still something that you'd like to do?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm still on a break from uni, but you never know. I'll go back to it sooner or later.
Okay.
But it's always going to be there, so... at the moment, this is, I feel like, what I
need to be doing and have to do.
And I feel like I'm in the right place. So yeah, ended up doing a 2-day tryout. So what we did was a Muay Thai, BJJ, wrestling, an interview, and then we did a beach workout, and then a big Buddha run. So this is over 2 days.
Yeah, that must have been pretty hardcore.
Yeah, it was intense.
Had you ever done anything of that level that required that level of athleticism and just physical output?
Well, I was here 2 weeks prior, so I was kind of used to the trainings, but yeah, they were just beasting us. They just wanted to break us, and we knew the second day our bodies were all wrecked, so it was just who wanted it the most.
So obviously you wanted it the most. Where does that drive come from? What were you telling yourself as your body and your mind and your soul are breaking down throughout that process?
I was just thinking, I don't want to go back to uni, pretty much, and
you knew what was waiting for you if you failed.
Yeah,
yeah,
and failing is not an option.
At any point did you say that when that was going on that this is really nasty? Like, were you like, this is super hard? Like, do I want this for myself?
Yeah, well, a few guys that I was talking to throughout the tryouts, they were already starting to break. They're like, do I really want to be doing this? This is a bit hard. I didn't sign up for this. But I would keep telling myself, I came out here, I have a goal. I'm not going to stop until I reach it. So
where do you think you get that drive from? We talked about this before we started recording. We were sort of talking about, I watched some videos of you on YouTube and, just talking with the other guys around the camp. Everybody says you're an incredibly dedicated hard worker, that you're just always pushing yourself, that you really have a whatever it takes mentality. And I like to define that as everybody has objectives in their lives, and some people are going to do as good as they can. And, you can never fault somebody for doing as good as they can. It's as good as they can.
Yes,
and
sure.
then but you also have other people who are going to do whatever it takes. And you seem to really have a whatever it takes mentality. You've been doing this for a long time and you're still really young. You've had some adversity in your fights, ups and downs there. Where does this drive to succeed at all costs come from?
I couldn't really pinpoint where it came from.
Did you have some good role models when you were younger? Family?
My family's really supportive, and they're going to support me on anything I do. All my brothers and sisters are pretty accomplished in whatever they do, so I think it's just from that, and just maybe my cousins as well, trying to be a good role model, and because no one's really gone abroad and just followed what they wanted to do, so I just keep that always in the back of my head. It's always pushing me. And right now, the way I train is, or in anything really, is I'm okay with dying of exhaustion. That's how far I want to push myself.
Yeah, it's funny how people have such different breaking points when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And that there's some people like yourself that are just put on earth to push themselves physically. And I mean, is there really any other sport where you're taking the kind of beating and the output that you need to generate than MMA? I mean, there's probably not, I remain convinced that MMA fighters are the best athletes in the world. Would you agree with that statement? Or
Yeah, well, at least top 3. I know there's other sports that you have to put a lot of work in, like gymnastics, just wrestling alone.
Yep.
But
you're not getting kicked in the head.
Yeah.
You're not getting elbowed on the bridge of your nose. You're not, there's this, what other sport demands you to not only put out so much, but to take so much? Of course, there's rugby, there's American football, there's some very, very, even a hockey, man. I mean, hockey is a brutal sport.
Yeah, it is.
I'm Canadian, so we're huge hockey fans, and I think it's an underappreciated sport on an international level. But I mean, if you really get into hockey, I mean, it's a good sport. I mean, there's this, because there's skating, there's an incredible amount of speed and grace to what they're doing.
Yeah.
But then there's just a brutal caveman aspect to it.
Yeah,
People just getting smashed, dropping gloves, throwing down. It's a very, very complete sport. But I mean, you see those guys, they're all missing half their teeth.
Yeah.
And they just, they'll get two teeth knocked out in a hit. They'll go get stitched up, get their lips, their mouth, patched up, and then they'll come back and keep scoring goals. I mean, incredibly tough. But they've got the armor, man, and they've got a team that's taken some of the brunt too.
Yeah.
All those. You look at individual sports, one-on-one, the amount of risk that an MMA fighter's taking, the amount of ways to win and lose are so numerous. There's just so many things to think about.
Yeah, it is, and that's why you've always got to keep a cool head. You got to be good under pressure.
How do you do that?
I just try to think of the moment, being in the moment, not thinking about what's happening around me or what am I going to do after, what have I done before. That's why I train so hard, because I don't want any excuses. I want to know that I've put in the work and my gas tank is going to always be on point. There's going to be no margin for error. That's how confident I want to be going into every fight.
And do you feel you generally enter all your fights with that same level of confidence? You're just like, listen, anything can happen. I can lose this fight, but I know I've trained and done everything possible to get in there.
Well, my mentality before was always just stay ready, but if you take short notice fights, it's hard to peak at the right time and stuff. So,
is that something you've done a lot?
Yeah, I've taken short notice fights, a few before, so it's not what I like to do, because you're rushing. It's like cramming for an exam. Yeah, and you go in there being like, okay, I can do this, but I wish I would have had more time to study my opponent, come up with a definitive game plan. I mean, but that's something that's so crazy in this sport. I just had Brian Ebersol on the show, and we talked about his fight that was upcoming against Alan Juban. And then all of a sudden, Juban got hurt 2 days ago, and I don't know if you even know that. So Brian Ebersol's now, I mean, the whole podcast we did, I don't know, about 25% of it, we were talking about, what he thought of Juban and how he was going to go in here as a young guy. Yeah. I mean, young guy, it's funny because there's only 2 years difference between him and Juban, but he's had 4 times the fights. Yeah. So, there was all sorts of interesting dynamics that allowed us to talk about, and that, he was saying he'd bring into this fight, and all of a sudden this guy's hurt, now he's got a totally different opponent, and okay, now go back to the drawing board. I mean, I think for a vet like Ebersol, he's not going to, I think he's always more concerned about just doing what he does than what he's seen it all and been there, just crazy, awesome guy. But yeah, you get the short notice fights, you get the injury replacement fights. Yeah. Again, that just adds to me the incredible level of complexity and the amount of variables and moving parts that MMA fighters have to face that many others don't. Yeah. How many boxing fights fall apart because some guy gets injured? Yeah. It doesn't happen. You don't have entire teams of hockey players that, there's other players on the bench that can step up. It's just MMA. There's just so many things that can change between the day that you decide to fight and the day the fight actually happens. Yeah. That's why you're never too comfortable until you're actually at the weigh-ins, and when you're even in the cage, really.
But even that, you look like there was a World Series of Fighting event on Saturday night, and there was going to be Matt Hamill against Thiago Silva. Yeah. Matt Hamill hit the weigh-ins, made weight, the fight was ready to go, and then a couple hours before the fight, he got sick, he pulled out, they took a guy lower on the card, put him up against Thiago Silva, matched 2 of the other light heavyweights together that was still on the card, brought a middleweight guy up to fight a guy at 205, and then one of the other 205 guys, they said, hey, you'll fight on the next show. Then the guy who stepped up to fight Hamill on 2 hours notice, to fight Silva, knocked him out. Oh. So all of a sudden basically, a lesser known fighter takes a fight on a few hours' notice against a UFC veteran and kind of a star. I mean, I like to watch Thiago Silva fight. And ends up blasting the guy. So, bad night for Silva. I mean, Hamill doesn't get paid because he's sick. But then some other guy got an opportunity to shine, put Silva away in the first round. I mean, those are all crazy variables, man. Is that just part of life of being a fighter?
Yeah, well.
I mean, you guys fight, right?
Yeah.
Put us in there and throw down.
Business.
But I mean, I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating, for one, the different physical challenges that you have to face, just like you did during the tryouts, just like you did this morning. You came in here, your head's all scuffed up. You obviously took a shot. And that's just a day's work,
Yeah.
I worked in video games, dude. I was behind a desk. I mean, right now I'm just behind a keyboard, and for me, it's fascinating to think that that's the grind, and that talking with all of you guys, what's fascinating about it is you go in there with the optimistic, enthusiastic, and yet every single day you could get really badly hurt.
It's a fine line.
It's a fine line. Are you pretty injury prone, or has your body held up well? Or
yeah, I've never really had any major injuries. I've never broken a bone.
That's good. I've broken so many bones, dude. So many. I never did anything like what you're doing, but yeah, as a kid, broke a lot of bones, man. Whenever I hear somebody say that, and that's crazy. You're a professional fighter. You've had 14 fights, and you've had some Muay Thai fights and K1 fights. You've never broken a bone.
I've dislocated fingers and stuff, but never.
It's not a break, though.
Yeah.
Never.
No major injuries.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I hear so many people talk. I've probably broken, I wouldn't be surprised if I did the final tally that I've broken 20 bones in my body.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It was dumb shit as a kid, just jumping off of cliffs and rope swings and whatever. Just, snowboard accidents.
Yeah.
I broke my femur in half skiing. I broke 2 vertebrae snowboarding. I cracked my skull. I had my nose broken a ton of times. Just play fighting, dumb shit,
Yeah.
But after a while, when I was your age, actually, I just said, stop. I hate being injured. I hate being in the hospital. And I hate not being able to do what I want to do because I got a freaking cast on my arm or my leg or my back's jacked up. To be in pain and to be suffering physically, it just sucks, man.
Yeah.
But again, some people handle it better than others. There's people who really get accustomed to pain and accustomed to being injured, and they walk around, and a lot of fighters are training like that.
Yeah, it's about training smart as well. And pulling back when you feel like you're on the edge of, when you're going to get injured. And
that's an interesting point. Let's talk a bit about that, because that's a huge epidemic right now in our sport.
Injury prone.
It's just the amount of fighters that are dropping out, or the amount of incredible fights that get announced and then get, canceled due to injury. What's your take on that?
It's just the way they're training, I guess.
But you seem to say that you feel that. You feel when you're like, okay, I'm on a fine line here where I'm exhausted and I could get injured. What are you responding to when that happens, and when you say, okay, chill out?
So if I go into a training session already pretty exhausted, I know, if it's like a conditioning session, I know that my body doesn't need this right now. I need to just recover, do a lighter set, maybe just work on some technique or something. But it's also your training partners as well. You've got to be able to trust them. If you're not really feeling 100% for the session, you should just talk to your training partner and say, can we just go a bit lighter today?
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid
and nobody's going to give you flack for that. Hey, you're not going 100%. It's like, that's you being honest with them, and they can, okay. I mean, there was a really interesting article by Jeremy Horn. Do you know Jeremy Horn?
Yeah.
Veteran fighter. I mean, he's had something like 110, 120 fights.
Yeah.
And he's literally never been injured. He said it. He said, and he was training with Militich camp back in the day when the Militich camp was running the UFC. They had Tim Silva holding the heavyweight title, Matt Hughes with the 170-pound strap, and Robbie Lawler was with them. Jens Pulver was lightweight champ. I mean, and those guys were going super hard. But it's incredible that Jeremy Horn just literally came out last week and he's just like, I don't know what these guys are doing, because I've been in fights with a gazillion guys, and I've been training for 20 years plus, and he's literally like, he said he had a bad groin pull once or something. It's like, damn. I mean, I had a groin pull when I came out here and trained at Tiger, just because I was an idiot coming in who hadn't worked out in a couple of years and just went too hard, on basic training. You know what I mean? But I mean that there's got to be something to be said about that. Where how does this guy, who's been around since the glory days, and he's been in this since it started, and he's been injury free. So how come all these new guys can't stick to their fight commitments and their fight bouts because they're getting smashed up?
It's about the way you're sparring as well. If you're going 100% every time, every day, then your body's not going to like that.
So within the team here at Tiger, what's your guys' approach to that? How hard do you spar? How often do you spar?
Well, we usually spar hard, maybe twice, if that, a week.
Okay.
So Monday and Fridays.
So when you say spar hard, what's the output percentage there of power?
No more than 70%. So we're not. If you tag someone, you're not looking for the kill.
Yeah.
You push the pace, smother them a bit, but you're not.
Is this with headgear?
Sometimes we spar with headgear, but personally, I don't really like headgears because when you're slipping a punch or you're trying to weave, the headgear gets in the way, and then you get caught with more punches.
And it really just is a matter of inches here.
Yeah,
So yeah, okay.
And I like to work a lot of head movement, so I don't like headgear because I get tagged more with it, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, you're probably trying to work those tight patches. Like, I want to slip this punch by just a little bit, and so
that means if you're missing by too much, that's not working. But if an inch,
you actually want to be slipping by the amount that the headgear is covering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the moment, but I can't really say that because I got touched this morning. I don't usually get hit, so I don't. I'm always out of range or in the pocket, so if I had the headgear on, it's just going to make it a bit more harder.
So where do you put like footwork and defensive maneuvering into your game plan? Is that a big, you got some fighters who like to go out there and take two to give one. What's your take on that?
Well, I love to emulate. My favorite fighters are Dominick Cruz and TJ Dillashaw.
I gotcha. I love watching those guys fight. Yeah. I'm so choked up that Dominick Cruz is injured.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while since he's fought.
Well, I mean, he fought Mitsugaki, in that return fight, which was a few months ago, but then he just re-injured his knee again. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same knee or the opposite one. I mean, see there, that's right back to what we were saying. Yeah. Like, he was out for 2 years, reigning, defending champ. Yeah. Gets his belt stripped, comes back, obliterates a tough guy in 30, 40 seconds. He looks spectacular. I was just like, good Lord, that was. I think he won an award for it. Like, there's the MMA awards, and he won like the comeback for that fight, and just for coming back after these knee surgeries. Then he gets put out again. I can't imagine for a guy like him how hard that must be. I know. When he's just like, I am the best, and I can't fight, and I'm basically spending my time doing broadcast commentary for the UFC instead of being the guy that's being talked about by being in the cage.
Yeah, I know. And Dillashaw just got injured, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like funny because I always get a kick out of it when the UFC books 2 title fights for the same night. I'm like, really, guys? I mean, isn't it more compelling to put a title fight, separate those title fights onto different pay-per-views, and hopefully get a title fight on every major pay-per-view? Yeah. And you see them double up like that, and you almost get the impression that they double them up like that because they're like almost sure that one of them's going to fall apart, so they got the back one that they can use as a backup. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that sucks that's how the promotion is having to set up their cards.
That is.
And then they become disappointing. There's a big difference between a fight that has a TJ Dillashaw title fight and a Demetrius Johnson title fight than just a Demetrius Johnson title fight. Not taking anything away from DJ. No, he's awesome too. I mean, he fits into the same vein as the Dominick Cruzes and the TJ Dillashaws. Yeah. And I mean, are you particularly appreciative of those guys because they fight in the same weight class as you, in the lighter weight classes? Or is it just you like their style?
Both.
Well, their style is also kind of indicative of their weight class and their body type. Yeah.
When you're smaller, you have to be a lot more quicker. And you don't want to be... You can stay in the pocket, but you don't want to get hit because it's just... You're going to accumulate punches and then that's what happens. You're going to get caught. But... what I like about TJ and Cruz, they're always moving. They're never stopping. So that's why personally, my cardio has to be the best in the whole gym to make the game plan work, because I'm going to tire myself out just by moving in one spot, slipping, level changes, feints. So, yeah.
It's funny because if you look at those guys, they're very effective at doing that at bantamweight. And then if you take, as the weight classes go a bit higher, take like a Michael Bisping, for example. You know, he's kind of known to be, you know, a footwork guy too, really light on his feet, really moving around, coming in, coming out, landing not necessarily power shots, you know, lighter shots that accumulative damage, kind of like even like a Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
But it seems like that sort of package works better for lighter fighters.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any... There's a lot of criticism of lighter fighters in MMA, and that there doesn't seem to be an appreciation for them as there is as you start going, say, welterweight and up, where guys start bringing in some knockout power, which is what people come to see. What's your take on that? How do you perceive it? Is it harder to knock somebody out at bantamweight than it is at a higher weight class?
You can't really say that because everyone's got an off button on their chin. It's just a matter of being accurate.
You know, I think a lot of people believe that just because people are lighter weight classes that they simply can't even generate the power to knock out another fighter. But we know that's not true. I mean, you saw TJ do it to Barao. You saw, Demetrius Johnson do it to Joseph Benavidez.
Yeah.
You know, and up until then, Demetrius. So, I mean, is the math any different at that weight class to knock somebody out? Or is it just hit the guy on the button, good clean shot? Is it technique over everything?
There's a lot of variables. The guy's got to be coming forward and...
Yeah, and I mean, Benavidez definitely walked into that shot.
Yeah, he's coming into range, But personally, I'd rather just watch lightweight fighters or the lighter weight classes. I just find them more exciting.
Usually, so you actually prefer those fights?
Yeah. They're just more well-rounded. You're going to see a scramble every time they're on the ground. It's never...
it makes for more compelling mixed martial arts fights.
For sure. You're going to get
really
everything.
Using everything. I love them. I have no discrimination. None whatsoever. I have favorite fighters and dream matchups at every weight class.
Yeah, a good fight's going to be happening soon. Faber and Edgar, one of my favorite fighters as well.
That's going to be a crazy fight. I've talked about that. I wrote a bit of a blog on it. I think that fight's fascinating because Edgar, first of all, doesn't need to take that fight. I think he's positioned to take on the winner of Aldo and McGregor. I think he deserves the fight more than McGregor does, but hey, this fight with McGregor is going to be awesome anyways. Yeah. And Edgar already had shot. Faber hasn't been fighting at that weight class. He's been fighting at bantamweight, so he's coming up to featherweight. I think Edgar has a lot of balls to take this fight. I've compared it in the past to how, you know, Chuck Liddell had a guaranteed title fight against Tito and took a fight against Babalu before that fight just because he just wanted to, you know, keep the pipes clean.
Yeah.
And he won that fight in devastating fashion with a, you know, brutal head kick. You know, so I think Edgar's a stud for taking this fight, and it's a dangerous fight because it's a non-title fight, and Uriah Faber never loses non-title fights. Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting stats and things going on leading up to this fight, and they're both such quality fighters.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I don't know who to choose either. They both got the same kind of style. They're top game, footwork.
I'd be surprised if either guy finishes the other.
Yeah, they're both pretty durable.
I mean, just Edgar, there's just not more durable than him, and I mean, there's really not more durable than Uriah either. Yeah. I mean, so if one of them manages to stop the other, that'll be impressive.
Yeah.
You know. So let's go way back. You, what's your martial arts history? What did you start by training, and at what age?
So I started when I was about 10 in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I just went down to the local martial arts gym with one of my friends. We're just mucking around. Did that for about a year and a bit.
Now you're from Auckland, New Zealand. Was this
This
there?
is in Auckland, yeah.
Okay.
So then I stopped it for a while. I kind of grew out of it, but then I came back when I was about 15.
What drew you to jiu-jitsu though?
Well, in New Zealand we like to play rugby, wrestling, and tackling. Okay. So it was similar to that. So that's what I liked about it.
Okay.
And
just that real one-on-one interaction. And okay.
So then when I was about 15 in high school, the same friend, we were like, let's go back to the gym. Let's get into more of this mixed martial arts. We've seen a few videos and stuff. So we went back and we got into more stand-up and jiu-jitsu and wrestling at the same time. And then, I just sparked the love for it again and had my first amateur fight when I was about 17.
Okay.
Had maybe 3 fights that year, amateur. And then my coach was like, do you want to fight pro? 18. So I was like, I was still in high school, so having your first pro fight then, it didn't go to my head. I didn't want people to know that I was fighting because I didn't, want the...
Even the pressure of, there's probably some weird pressures going on like that. You're like, okay, I got a bunch of people that are going to know about this. It's like the less people know, the less the result doesn't matter.
And I'm not a big guy either, so I don't want people to like start thinking this guy thinks he's the man or can fight, so let's...
So you kept it on the down low.
Yeah.
Okay. How'd it go?
So I had my first pro fight in Auckland. I won by head kick knockout the first round. So, it was a pretty good fight. And then, I had a few more after that, all in New Zealand. And then I think it was around 2009, I got a call to fight in Hong Kong on a show called Legion, FC.
Yeah, you fought a bunch for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a few teammates.
Where are they based out of? Like, where's their headquarters?
It was in Macau before the UFC was there.
Okay.
Macau, Hong Kong.
But is that where Legion's based out of, like from a business perspective? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So, before the UFC had broken into that market, this was the big show around there.
Okay.
And it was when ONE FC was still coming up as well, so they were the main competition. But this was on a ring. And I got the call, I think on my birthday, on a week's notice. So I was about to cut my cake, got the call.
Yeah,
my
don't eat that.
I was like, you want to take this fight? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Okay.
So I was fighting a Filipino. So a week's notice, had to start weight cutting straight away. Had to cut maybe 9 kgs or something that week.
Crazy.
So I made the weight
for a smaller guy, man. Yeah.
So I made the weight, and so the fight, I lasted until the 3rd round. I was winning the fight. I was staying on top, ground and pounding. Legends is you're allowed to knee the head on the ground. So you're not allowed to soccer kick, but you're allowed to knee the head. So I had him in turtle a few times, and I was making the most of the rules. And then in the 3rd round, the gas tank was running on E.
Yep.
Ended up getting caught for right hand. So it was a learning curve, but I think on a week's notice, I was still quite young. Win or lose, it was still a win for me. I learned a lot in that fight, so I ended up getting more fights over there because I impressed the promoters and stuff. And then, so over the last few years, I've fought pretty much everywhere in Asia.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. I mean, you fought in Australia, New Zealand, in Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Taiwan, China. I mean, that's crazy, man. You're only 22. There's a lot of people. They'll never even visit that many countries in their lives. You know, do you get to experience the culture a bit while you're there, or is it kind of just get in, fight, and get out? Like,
it's leading towards the fight when you're weight cutting and stuff. You can't really go around and see the city because you're so exhausted and don't have the energy. But usually after the fight,
you try to stick around for a couple of days, or at least 8 days.
If I can, if I can stay another extra night, I would. But it's just cool being able to travel to these different countries and.
Yeah, because I know, like when I was working on NBA Live for EA Sports for many years, and when I first started on that project, I was actually the localized commentary guy. So there was somebody else that was designing like the US version and recording the English speaking announcers. But they'd send me to Tokyo, to Italy, to Madrid, to France to record, French, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and it was always frustrating because I'd be out there and I'd just have to work. And like, man, it sucks to be in these new countries and not be able to, take a bit of time to experience it. Thankfully, I'd always kind of try to bridge the countries with a day or so or two of being able to visit, because, it's a shame to go all the way to these places and not really at least have one day to experience a new country. Yeah. Do you like to travel?
Yeah, I love to travel, but it's a bit different when you can't really eat on the plane or takes away from it, and you're doing a water load and you got to go to the toilet every 5 minutes. But it's one of the perks of fighting, I think, is being able to travel and put on a show and see different people, get connections.
It's funny too, because you see some guys that take a lot of international fights, and then you see that there's a lot of, I'd say more like American fighters. A lot of them don't seem to want to, to take those fights either in Brazil or to take the ones in Europe, so that's where you see those cards are padded with a lot of local fighters or with a lot of foreign fighters, but that aren't necessarily from the States.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. Like you'll see like Brazilians go fight in Japan, or you'll see them go fight all over, basically.
Yeah.
But American fighters tend to want to. I mean, not all of them, but it seems like there's a big majority of them. They like to fight on home soil. You just seem like it's just anyone, anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I haven't fought in New Zealand nearly 3 years now.
Okay.
Partly because there's no one left really at my weight, and it's just I haven't fought there. But I would love to fight there again. I want to fight in my hometown.
Okay.
Just, get my family to watch me. Yeah, why not? But for now, in Asia is where I want to be based and make my name here. And then I'm gonna make my debut, my next fight at Flyweight. So.
Oh, okay. So your next fight's going to be a flyweight.
Yeah. So,
okay. Do you have that lined up already?
Yep. That's going to be May 9th in Taiwan.
Okay. In what promotion?
It's called Pro FC.
Okay.
So
it's like
actually at
the Pacific Rim Organized Fighting Champion or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
I think I just funny you said that because I think have you fought for them yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's why then. That's how I saw it.
Yeah. So I fought for them a year and a half ago. Won by head kick knockout against a Korean.
Okay.
And fighting from the same team. They want redemption against me, so fighting a guy who's 2-0. So. Yeah.
So I mean, ultimately, you like everybody else. Seems like I talked to the end goals of UFC. Your record's at what? You're at 7-5 right now.
Yeah, 7-5-1.
So I mean, what are you hoping to? Well, what I think is cool about MMA too is like the record isn't everything. No. It obviously plays a lot, and how does your existing record play in your mind right now? I mean, I think you get guys like Matt Brown, for example. He was in the UFC and had a really dodgy record, and now he's it didn't matter because he just went on a streak of putting on great fights. Now he's a bona fide star. Everybody wants to see him fight all the time, and he always puts on great performances. Do you identify with somebody like that? Like, if you're you don't got the squeakiest, cleanest record right now, but you're going out there, you're competing, you're staying in the cage, you're staying in the ring. How does that play into your strategy right now?
Well, I've taken a lot of fights that some would say I shouldn't have, but from stubbornness and just the way things planned out, I ended up taking it. But now I'm taking more of a
you're gonna try to
approach. Yeah. So I want to take fights that are more in my favor at the natural weight class of flyweight, which I've always said I can make I've made the weight before, and it was just a matter of time before I was actually going to cut to the weight class. So I think just the right timing, and it's time to cut to that weight class. And I was fine at bantam. I had the knockout power there, but at flyweight, I think you're going to see finishes in impressive fashion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to
think you'll keep all your power, all your technique. Yeah.
I'm going to be bigger at that weight class as well.
Okay.
Because I've always been a smaller fighter. I've always given away the height advantage. But
yeah, it's hard. It's hard, man. And I was talking about this too on some other podcasts. What's cool about MMA is how it provides an outlet for shorter guys to compete at the topmost level of a sport. You can't be a tennis player if you're not over 6 feet tall. You can't be a basketball player. You can't be a football player. The height is so important in so many sports. Yeah. Whereas MMA, it's great that there is that breakdown. I mean, boxing as well, combat sports in general. Yeah.
So for a while, I was kind of like Frankie Edgar, fighting at a weight class I wasn't really cutting much weight for, just using my speed. Yeah. But this will definitely be a good thing for me cutting down.
So what's the date there again for your next fight?
May 9th.
May 9th. All right, so it's coming up. I mean, you got 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah, I'm on everything's falling into place, feeling good.
And that'll be in Taiwan?
Yeah.
Okay, who will be cornering you there?
We'll see who's around at the time, but maybe Roger or George.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, man, this is great talking with you. Sounds like you're firing on all cylinders here, and you're ready to go. You itching to get back in there?
Yeah, man.
When was your last fight?
So I fought in China in January.
Okay, all right. All right, so you're one of the guys around here who you fought quite recently.
Yeah. No.
Okay, good.
So that went the distance.
Okay.
So it felt good to just get 3 rounds already under
Was that an MMA fight?
Yeah, it was an MMA fight.
Okay.
But yeah, in China, if you don't finish the fight, you pretty much lose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty biased over there.
Okay.
Judges, but it's still a good promotion. They look after you and stuff. But yeah, it's just how it goes in foreign countries.
Yep.
You got to finish it up.
Go in there, finish them. Don't leave it to the judges.
No.
Excellent. How can people follow you on social media?
So you can follow me on Facebook. Just type in my name, my full name, Kai Cutter France, or on Instagram, Kai Cutter France. Don't have a Twitter yet, but I've been working on it. I'll get one up. Yeah,
man, get it up. I think it's that's something it seems to be pretty big in this sport. That it's a live thing, and there's a lot of things that you can throw up on Twitter that keep people really following you. And especially you've got such great material. Training a tiger, there's always something to show. Always little video clips you can throw up there, and people tend to gravitate, I think, quite well to MMA input and output on Twitter.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for coming by,
thanks
man.
Thanks for having me.
You got a busy schedule. What's on the rest of your day?
So 4 o'clock got MMA sparring. So
okay,
I'm not going to use that footwork.
Wear your mouth guard this time, right?
Yeah.
All right. This was the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier, with Tiger Muay Thai flyweight fighter Kai Cutter France. Tune in to the show. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. Be sure to visit trashtalkmma.com.
Smile on my face, behind my back, they talk trash.
And don't forget to follow Antoine on Twitter at Trash Talk MMA. Let us know you're listening. Use hashtag Trash Talk MMA.